Hey there, and welcome back to my workshop. I don't have a whole lot of time today because we're preparing to go camping, so I figured I'd do a quick video. And instead of the normal knife review videos, I thought I'd go over some of my favorite tools. As most people can tell from my username, I am a luthier. I do build guitars, as you can see in the back here. This is one of my electric guitars. So I thought I'd spotlight some of my favorite go-to tools when I am building my guitars. Now obviously it takes a lot more tools than this just to build a guitar. These are just some of the ones that I gravitate to depending on the operations that I'm doing. So without further ado, let's get right into it. When I make my necks, I do a lot of the shaping by hand. I will do most of my cutting down to size on my bandsaw, but when it comes to actually profiling and shaping the back of the neck, I tend to gravitate toward this. This is my Shinto Rasp. If you haven't heard of this, you should get your hands on one. I gravitate toward this tool more than most of my other ones. I love this thing. I have used the junk out of it since I've gotten it. It's just a bunch of saw blades all weaved together, and it's an open profile, so it doesn't get clogged like a regular rasp. And this is great for profiling. I do my necks with this, I do my body contours, I do all kinds of things with this. And I use it for many other things too, straightening out edges when they just need a touch up. It's got a heavy tooth on one end and a fine tooth on the other end. It does a pretty good job cleaning it up. Obviously you need to sand afterwards, but I figure after using this I tend to start about 220 once I've used this one, and that usually gets me pretty good, and it makes the surface nice and smooth. Other than that, when I'm profiling my necks, I will gravitate toward this Spokeshave. This is an antique Stanley compound Spokeshave. It's got a straight blade and a curved blade. I tend to use this just to knock down corners, and then I do most of my shaping with the straight blade. But I love this little tool. I picked this up very cheap and restored it, which is my favorite way of getting tools, and how I've gathered most of what I have is I restore them. You find a lot of people who will give them away or give them away for cheap. And if it's just a little bit of love, you can get it back to working order, and it works beautifully. The other thing I tend to gravitate towards is my Japanese chisel. I use this more than any other chisel I have, and I have many of them. But this thing holds an edge very well. I don't have to sharpen it that often, and it cuts beautifully. I love this thing. If I need to knock out, an edge on a dovetail or anything like that, this is what I use. It cuts through like butter. And I don't know, there's just nothing but good things to say about Japanese chisels. I would love to replace my whole set. Unfortunately, they're a little hard to come by in this area, so this one I ordered off eBay. I got it for very cheap, and it actually came to me razor sharp. So I think I've only sharpened it once since I've received it, which is saying something because I sharpen my chisels a lot. The other thing I tend to gravitate towards is this plane. I have many planes, but this one I would say I use more than any of them. This here is a Corsair. It's like a, let's say a Stanley No. 7 copy. Nice flat metal sole. I love this thing. Again, nothing but good things to say about it. And this was another one that I got and restored. It was in piss poor condition, and with a little elbow grease and a good sharpening, got it back to working order, and I use it all the time. The last thing I have on my table here that I use constantly is my pull saw. I like the Japanese style pull saws better than the American style saws because you tend to have more control and there's a lot less tear out. Because you're pushing your whole body weight down on it, which can tend to tear as you're doing it, whereas when you're pulling, you have a little more control on the cut. I have this one, which I tend to use more than any of my other saws, but I do have two other ones. I have the trapezoid shaped one. I like those two. They have a heavier cut and a finer cut, but this one is thinner than those ones, so that's why I tend to gravitate toward this one. I lose a lot less material that way, and I get a nice finer cut. Now again, obviously, there is a lot of tools that take place when you're building a guitar. If we're talking, from my main electrics is what I build. I do build acoustics too, but those take a whole other tool set. You can still use a lot of these tools, obviously, for neck shaping or planing down your tops and your sides, but there's also side benders and various other specialty tools. These are just basic tools that, even if you don't build guitars, you could use these for any project you're using. I love these ones. These are my main go-tos for many projects that I'm doing aside from building guitars too. They tend to stay out, whereas most of my other tools go away. I put them back where they need to go. These ones just kind of sit on the bench because I'll take them out constantly. Other than that, that is all I got for you this week. Please click like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you'd like to see. Still looking for all kinds of requests, anything that you're interested in. It doesn't even have to be tools necessarily. If you want to, I could test out guitars. Let me know down in the comments, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.